Yo, 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 happy Friday.
Are
What's
we
up, Wes?
are we actually live?
I
Have
think we are
we
live.
messed this up
Hopefully,
yet or not?
I don't know if I messed it up, but it says live in orange there, so hopefully we're live. How you doing,
Let us
buddy?
know. Can they let us know in the chat if we're live or not? Let's just do that first.
Let us know, guys.
Is the
How was
chat?
your week, bro?
Ooh, bit of a roller coaster, man. Up, down, left, right. All good though. All positive. I'm like screaming in like 8 or 9, definitely. No one's chatted yet. Are we actually live?
We are. I also got a notification on LinkedIn to join the live, so hopefully we're all set. So where is the other guy?
He's lost, isn't he? As usual. He's lost in another country.
Yeah, where about?
He think he got deported and they sent him back to India.
They sent it back to India. We tip off the immigration of UK and we sent Ash back to India. So right now he's lost in some. We don't even know where he is.
Finally, like we got a message from him through the night, didn't we? And he landed like 11 hours ago, and he's like a
But
6 hour journey.
because we are strategists, we
Yeah,
replaced him immediately.
yeah. Ash has got an upgrade.
We
100.
got an upgrade. Well, that's an easy upgrade, isn't it? I think most of the human population will be an upgrade for Ash.
Come on, let's welcome him in. Let's bring the building. The
Here
one,
we
the
go,
only
ladies and gentlemen, the one and
Fake
only.
Ash.
Raka
Fake
Taylor,
Ash here.
member of the family, part of the crew,
Yes.
the
Yes,
Watercooler crew,
indeed.
WAM extension, whatever you want to be called. How are you, man? Good.
I'm doing well. Thanks. Thanks. I appreciate it. This square isn't quite as handsome as it usually is, but I'll do my best.
I think it's an upgrade in all means and forms.
Thanks for stepping in as well.
Right. So what are we talking about today, guys?
We're talking about luck, and almost
Hmm.
we didn't have good luck. About 30 seconds ago, we were quite unlucky,
Yeah.
I think, and I think that's about to change.
But it's an
Nice.
interesting spin on luck because luck is no accident. Luck can be strategized, can be weaponized, and can be used as your superpower in branding. And the concept of the next guest and his philosophy on luck, I think, is one of the most interesting I ever seen. I love the material they put out. I love the work they do. And our next guest is someone who has redefined what it means to create an opportunity in branding. He's a true mastermind who helped brands turn challenges into triumphs, setbacks into opportunity for success. And it's someone that knows how to flip that narrative, right? So how to flip the narrative of luck, not as random stroke of fortune, but as a strategic tool that brands can master. He's the founding partner of Lucky Generals with offices in London, New York, and we're talking about an agency that has been shortlisted as Campaign Agency of the Year for 5 years in a row and won tons of effectiveness awards as well. He's the author of a brilliant book, which is called Go Luck Yourself, 40 Ways to Stack the Odds in Your Brand's Favor. He's recognized as one of the UK's top creative strategies, and he worked with brands like Amazon, Virgin Atlantic, Yorkshire Tea, Co-op to deliver some incredible campaigns. His approach has shaped some of the most awesome campaigns I've seen there. So please help me welcome to the show, Andy Nen.
Hey, you made it, mate,
Hey, how you doing?
in real time.
I'm feeling very good that we managed to make that happen. Yeah, that would have been the worst advert for a book about luck ever if you had no luck.
The greatest. Yeah.
We twisted then. Andy, how you been doing? You've been busy lately, yeah, traveling and going around.
I have been. I've been in New York seeing our agency over there. So apologies if I'm still a little bit jet lagged. I've been wired on so much caffeine today.
Yeah.
So if I talk too fast, that might be the other problem that we might have.
And nothing beats Delhi coffee, though, does it? In New York, Delhi coffee, mud.
Oh no, exactly. You get amazing classic coffee over there.
You
so
never
just
know what
love
you're
that.
drinking from a deli, though, do you? You know, that's the thing. I think it sustained my life for about 12 years. I just lived on it every
Possibly.
day. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's start.
Andy, I think help people understand what is your philosophy of creating luck, because it's a beautiful oxymoron, isn't it? creating something that usually is understood as something that just happens.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, isn't it? But luck is, well, as I say in the book, luck is a 4-letter word in business circles. It's a bit of a taboo subject. People don't like to talk about it or acknowledge it, especially in Western business cycles, because, like you said in the intro, it seems a bit silly or superstitious, or there's nothing much to it. It's a bit flimsy. It's like the opposite of strategy, isn't it? And I started doing some digging because I've got this agency called Lucky Generals, but we just chose that. Didn't really put too much thought into the philosophy or the science or anything like that behind it. But then there came a moment where I kind of thought maybe I should actually research what the hell our name is all about. Maybe that would be helpful. And I sort of found this kind of strange thing where people the big problem, people think it's the opposite of hard work or intelligence. Like if you say someone's lucky, it's a bit of an insult, isn't it? Because it kind of suggests that they're not smart or they haven't worked hard at something. And there's a kind of a lot of the time you get people will say to you, there's no such thing as luck. The harder you work, the luckier you get, which means it's kind of just all about just, plugging away. But what I found, and I'm sure you guys are the same, and your listeners will know that when you're doing anything creative, you of course you need hard work, 100%, and of course you need talent, but you do need some luck along the way. And you can either let that luck come to you, or you can actually take some active steps to make it happen. And that's really what the book is about. It's about making your luck. There was a great quote from an old Roman, believe it or not, a guy called Seneca, who said that luck is where preparation meets opportunity. I really like that. You've got to have that prepared mind. You've got to be intelligent. You've got to work hard. But when opportunity comes waving at you, you've got to recognize it and jump on it and make something happen. And I think that's the sort of luck that we can all do more with, and we can kind of stack the odds in our favor.
It's a tricky balance between strategy, creativity, and serendipity, right? And what comes first?
I think you can, of course, you've got to think strategically, but you can increase your chances of things happening by taking active steps to make those kind of serendipitous sort of lucky breaks more likely. All serendipity is when one thing bumps into another thing at the same time. Like in the world of medicine, people are always having serendipitous discoveries. Pretty much all the big scientific discoveries have been, it's Archimedes in the bath, isn't it? It's Isaac Newton sitting under the tree and the apple falling on his head. It's Fleming discovers a petri dish in his laboratory that's got mold growing on it. So all of these things are actually that is how science works. You discover things a lot of the time by accident, but then crucially you've got to be smart, and this is where the prepared mind needs. If I'd seen that petri dish full of mold, I wouldn't have known what it meant. I would have just chucked it in the garbage bin probably. But a really clever scientist is able to recognize that that's what's going on. And I think we can all try and create those serendipitous moments in our life by stacking our life full of other things that make it more likely for us to bump into lucky things that are going to make our strategies better.
I love that, but also there has to be a mindset, isn't it? And more importantly, the time to allow for the exploration, right?
Yeah, sure. You got to put in the hours. You got to attack it sort of consciously. Like I say, we all have serendipity happens to us all the time. We bump into things by accident, or you could have, like you say, the mindset of saying, I'm going to take some time now and ring fence some time in my day to deliberately try and make this kind of thing happen. So if you look at people like, some of the biggest companies in the world have structured their businesses or the way they work or their offices so that you have to bump into people. That was Steve Jobs' big thing. He would design his buildings so that people from different disciplines they had to talk to each other. So that's a kind of a case of actively trying to stack the odds in your favor. You can switch off your laptop and deliberately go for a walk because that's probably quite likely to, so many ideas have been inspired by nature. Or you can deliberately say, I'm going to now going to listen to music and see what that brings me, or I'm going to play sport or do all of these other things. You can do them passively and the ideas will come to you. But if you actually make it a strategy in your life to fill your life with interesting stuff and interesting people, that's massively going to increase your chances of success. So I think it's all about actively trying to run after luck rather than just hoping that luck is going to come after you.
And you know, on that topic there, Andy, like, do you find that you were subconsciously like that as a human anyway, or did you really have to work on that after you'd kind of injected this kind of mindset into your business?
To your point, I think I would naturally hope that I am a little bit like that anyway. But the more I've thought about it, the more I've learned about it, the more I now try and do it a bit more actively. And I'll tell you, one of the things, another reason why we need to be a bit more conscious of this now, of course, is that because we're working remotely, which I know has massive benefits in all sorts of ways, but it does sometimes mean that we miss those water cooler moments, for want of a better expression for you guys. But that is so useful, isn't it? That's why it's a great name for a show, because those water cooler moments when we meet each other, and it's that lovely moment when somebody you don't work with says, "Hey, what are you working on?" Exactly. And you tell them about it, and then completely by chance, somebody might help you and say, "Oh, have you thought about this?" Yeah. And that's serendipity. And like I say, we can hope that happens, or you can deliberately go to the water cooler because you know it's going to happen. And of course, what's happening in society at the moment is we have fewer of those conversations sometimes because we are, further apart for lots of good reasons. So sometimes we need to engineer those moments back into our day to make sure that we're still having those kind of nice serendipitous connections with people.
What do you think the difference is, if there is one, between luck and chance?
That's a good question.
Very good question. I think chance. I'd say luck and chance are probably quite similar, because I think both of them you can change. I think the distinction I'd make is between what you might call blind luck or inherited luck, and then the luck you can change. And my example would be like from cards. Like if you get dealt a game of, if you're playing poker and you get dealt an amazing hand of cards, you've got a couple of aces or whatever, then that's fantastic luck. But that is inherited luck. You've not done anything to deserve that. You can't do anything with it. So some people are perhaps born in life, for instance, with an amazing deck of cards. And actually Warren Buffett calls that winning the ovarian lottery, which I think is a brilliant expression. If you're like, I'm pretty much everything doing, I'm like older, white, straight, able-bodied guy. That in itself gives me a massive advantage over a lot of other people. And unfortunately, that is the way that society works. So, and this is why I think it's actually so important to get your heads around this and say that luck does exist. Because if you say that there's no such thing as luck, really that's sort of patronizing, because you're saying to the little girl in Somalia who's perhaps been born with a disability, to kind of say to someone in that situation, you've got exactly the same chances as me, that's just sort of ridiculous, I think, and sort of really horrible. And actually, a lot of the problems in the world right now are kind of created by this kind of illusion that everyone starts off with the same chances, and as long as you work hard, you can do whatever you want in life, and everyone can succeed to the same degree. And we use outliers. We kind of point to because there are some people who do incredible things despite starting off with a very bad set of cards. Anyway, I might be digressing into social sciences here, but I do think it is important because it is a whole bunch of stuff that you're born with, and brands and companies are born with. If you start up on day one working at an amazing company that's already got a huge factory, market leadership, amazing products, and all the rest of it, that you're lucky to be doing that. Mm-hmm. And then there's the luck that we can all change ourselves. Then it comes down to what you can do with these cards. And even if you've been given a pretty bad deck of cards in life or in work, then we can start to alter and sort of work on those things. And that's kind of the sort of thing that we should focus on. But I think generally being conscious of and understanding that there is a thing called luck in life, and that if you are in a lucky situation, you should be appreciative of it. I think that makes you better as well, sort of thing.
And that's interesting because, like, we've all heard like this phrase, create your own luck. But I'm firmly in your camp. Like, if we're all dealt the same cards at the start, against kind of what you said, but if we're all kind of walking the walk of life, right? If we don't give luck a chance, then the odds are against us, right? If we don't put ourselves in that place to get those odds to go against us or for us, sorry, then we're never going to create our own luck in that sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, very, very much so. It's like a lot of things in life. If you're conscious of something, you can change it. But if you're not conscious of it, you probably can't change it. So for instance, if you're working for a great company and you've got amazing people there, but you don't realize how lucky you are. Some people just, don't realize how lucky they are, sort of thing. And then you take things for granted. You take for granted the fact you've got these amazing people, or you take for granted you've got this great advertising history, or that you've got this amazing data. You've got tons and tons of data, and it's sometimes a lot of the work that I do with companies is just to help them realize, we've just come through Thanksgiving, haven't we, in the States, and to get people to give a bit of thanks to the situation they're in and appreciate the good things in their life. There's a lot of science that shows that does make you more likely to succeed, because you sort of figure, oh my goodness, we must blessed with this particular strength or advantage. We mustn't just let it go to waste. Whereas if you don't think, if you don't think how lucky and privileged you've been, you might let that particular advantage slip through your hands because you just don't think it's any big deal.
It's interesting. Like, obviously, I lived in the States, so understanding Thanksgiving, and Raka's obviously out there now, but I think that's a day that makes you forced to think about what you're actually thankful for. And like, even at my family now, I'm sure Raka does this before we have dinner. I make my whole family go around the table and like, what are we thankful for? Like,
it's a cultural ritual, isn't it? Like what we were discussing about designing your own culture from Great Mondays. It's exactly that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go on, Andy. Go on.
No, I think, obviously Raka will, know this much better than me. But in America, or in a lot of places, actually, you do it for one day of a year. That's the weird thing. And that's also true in companies. That's like one day that we give thanks for things, and then the rest of it we forget all these amazing things in our life. And I think is to kind of say we should all try and spend a little bit of time throughout the year trying to be grateful and appreciate the things that we've got. Some of the best strategies come from, they're so obvious. The book is full of these ideas, which in retrospect are so obvious that all we've done or all someone else has done is sort of say, you do realize how lucky you are to have that old slogan or that mascot or that bit of brand history. And the company, because companies get so used to things that have been kicking around their offices for decades, they often don't realize how lucky they are to have some of these things in their armory.
Oh my God! Like, I think the reason why I love this book is for two reasons. Well, you see that it's a travel book, and because the stories are kind of not necessarily connected, like they're separated luck stories on which we can learn, and all of them they're kind of summarized at the end with a nice summary of what you can learn. And these are the books that work really well for me because I can pick and drop. Like I'm that kind of reader, And what I learned and what I loved absolutely from here, which is a segue to what you were saying, is that we have our superpower, but because we are so inside the jar, we cannot read the label, and we build this tunnel vision as people that live and breathe and build the brand for 20, 30, 40, 60 years, that superpower, that intrinsic luck that we had got hidden by an amount of crap. And I love how you guys had those serendipity moments and just unpicked, and it was there. And with a later understanding is what you said. It's not rocket science. It was there, guys.
Yeah. Well, there's a good. I'll give you a good example of that because it's kind of a well-known one. We've worked with Amazon for best part of 9-10 years, and along the way we were asked to try and make people feel something about Amazon, because it's quite a rational brand, or traditionally it was quite a rational brand. It was everyone really respected that this thing really works and it's good value and it delivers things efficiently, but people didn't really feel much about it. So this brief was, how do you get people to feel something about Amazon all around the world? So it had to be global as well. And we started looking at the logo of Amazon, and as many of you know, it was called the Amazon arrow, and it goes from the letter A to the letter Z.
Yeah.
So it's the arrow that said that we sell everything from A to Z and we deliver everything from A to Z as well. But that was very logistical and efficient and rational message. And so when we're having these conversations, one of the creatives kind of said, "Do you know that arrow? It also looks a bit like a smile." And actually, the more you see it as a smile, it can be singing, and these boxes can be singing and smiling, and we can be. Why can't we be delivering smiles all over the world? That's much more kind of emotional, rather than just delivering cardboard boxes. So we created this whole idea that it was all about singing boxes with this smile, and it wasn't an arrow anymore, it was a smile. But we didn't change anything. And the really weird thing was, when we did a bit more research, we found that the original designers 20 years ago had always conceived of it as being part smile and part arrow. But within the company, because companies have got short, corporate memories, everyone had forgotten that bit of it from 20 years ago, and they called it the arrow. So we weren't even doing anything smart. All we were doing was like rediscovering the thing that someone else had kind of thought of 20 years ago, and kind of saying, why can't we make the arrow into a smile? And I genuinely think, and that's obviously gone everywhere now. That smile is on everything as the symbol of their app and all sorts of other things. But how that been going past people millions of times on a conveyor belt, millions of times a day. It's on everyone's fleeces, on everyone's trucks, on everyone's sort of on every bit of stationery that they ever create. They must have seen that logo. You go blind after a while if you work for a company. You see something like that so many times. And sometimes you need someone from outside to kind of say, "Hey, that's really lucky. You've got that thing. That's amazing. Why don't we do something with that?"
Yeah. So tell me a bit more about the process and Lucky General and Go Luck Yourself. So sounds to me that research is a huge part of it.
Yeah, we do a lot of research, but we try and make it kind of a bit more wide-ranging. Because the problem with research, sometimes, again, this is one of the problems, sometimes research zooms in on the problem in such a narrow way. Okay, you're a bank, so we're only going to look at banks in a certain way, in the way that banks are always, and we're only going to get people that are already in this market. Whereas actually, maybe we'd learn something more from thinking about how an airline would handle this, or a fashion brand, or what would the world of music do with this bank? Asking sort of bigger, more interesting cultural questions, rather than just immediately jumping into the same kind of research template, is something that I think is kind of interesting. And then I think it's also about research kind of sparks interesting ideas and interesting avenues, but not using it as a kind of a thing that we are beholden to. We're still human beings. Surely we've still got to be able to use our insight and our judgment and make those creative leaps. We otherwise we might as well all just give up and ask research. Or these days, it's not even real people in research. Sometimes these days, it can be sort of artificially generated AI personas. I mean, do we all just give up and let them tell us what the answer is? I hope not.
Yeah, it's interesting. And how do you find the perception of those organizations that okay, you actually had this which were already existing, and we resurface it, and we believe it's gonna be it will give you an opportunity. How do you manage to kind of onboard them into this serendipity moment, into this like, oh, we actually found a hidden superpower?
I think it's something that you have more credibility doing when you've got a long track record, which thankfully we do. So when you can point to companies like Amazon and Virgin Atlantic and Yorkshire Tea and other people like that we've done this successfully for, that gives people I guess some trust, and also I just feel like we can we can validly argue to them that it's actually the responsible thing to do, because if you have a little bit of equity in something that already exists, that's powerful most of the time. They're completely reinventing something. In marketing and advertising, we're our own worst enemies. This desire to keep on changing things with every new boss that comes in, to change and get rid of the last guy's work. The most successful brands build on what they've done over time and are consistent. And so it's actually kind of responsible to help companies see that building on these things that they're already somehow in existence, but just need to be turned upside down or repurposed a little bit, is just kind of a much more efficient commercial way to build a business.
And except Amazon, what's another of your favorite stories from the book?
Yeah, you got any other case studies?
Yeah, sure. I mean, something like I think Yorkshire tea is interesting. So Yorkshire tea was for a long time, it was the number 3 tea brand in Britain, and it was miles behind everyone else. And it was a regional tea brand. The clue is in the name. It's from Yorkshire, and I guess place is one of those things that a lot of companies are a bit worried about. They don't appreciate how lucky they are to come from a particular place. It's like all of us as human beings. We don't usually appreciate the place that we're from, do we? If you grow up somewhere, you don't think the place you grew up is all that interesting. And sometimes
the grass is always greener on the other side.
Yeah, of course.
You're talking about Yorkshire, Andy. Like that's God's country. I'm just going to let
there you go. Well, exactly. That's you're obviously in the other camp. But a lot of people sort of worry about nobody wants to know about us being from this particular place because they think commercially that might be limiting. And Yorkshire tea was by quite a small brand back then, and they might have felt, well, we don't want to make a big deal about being from Yorkshire because the whole point is we want to speak to everybody in this country. So isn't that going to be a bit of a hindrance? But luckily there's an amazing team there, and they completely got that Yorkshire could be, yes, it's a physical, literal place, but it's also an attitude where people do things proper. Mm-hmm. And actually there was a when we were doing the factory trip, and there was a line that said, we do things proper. So not properly, but proper, in this sort of proper Yorkshire way of saying it. We do things proper. And we thought, that's cool, that's interesting. Nobody wants to hear about all the they do amazing things to sort of guarantee the quality of the tea. And we thought that's going to be boring if we do that. But we like this idea of doing everything proper. So rather than bang on about the tea leaves and stuff like that, let's talk about, let's have Michael Parkinson doing the interviews, the legendary sort of interviewer. And let's have famous band like the Kaiser Chief doing the hold music when people are on the phone, or let's get Patrick Stewart, the great actor. These are all great Yorkshire people doing a leaving speech. So the idea is all about, if we do that proper, we're gonna, just think how much quality they must put into the tea. So this is a place where everything's done proper, and that has catapulted that brand to clear absolute, they're the market leader now by an absolute mile, and have demolished these two hugely well-respected and successful brands because they appreciated the place that they came from. Yeah, they were lucky to come from Yorkshire, from God's own country, and that wouldn't put people off. That would that could, if they got it right, bring them in. Wes is liking that now.
That's big in hip hop as well. Like coming out of the hip hop world, doing a lot of work in that space, celebrating where you come from. Whether it's Boogie Down Productions talking about the South Bronx, or NWA talking about Compton, Outkast naming their album ATLians. Like that's one of those things where you're able to celebrate where you're from, but also paint a picture for other people from around the world to be able to walk these streets. And before I'd ever gone to New York, I felt like I'd been to New York because I'm listening to these records paint these vivid pictures of these things. So you're able to bring people in and at the same time celebrate that. That's a beautiful thing.
Totally.
And we have a question from the audience, which is interesting. Mark is asking, has this approach ever backfired?
Yeah, interesting.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of things that we've done that have been mistakes or not, we've not got right. I think
You
that's true
you
of
you
life,
got
isn't it?
unlucky.
Yeah. I could, by the end of it, I can probably think of some examples. That is human nature, isn't it? We screen out all the things that the things that didn't work, and we remind ourselves of the things that did work. And sometimes it doesn't go right the first time, and then you get it right afterwards. But even that, I think, is an opportunity, because and that's part of the book, is about, a lot of the time, luck is about how you respond to bad luck.
Yeah.
If you've got a bad product, or there's a flaw in the product, how do you turn that into a success? I think is that's really interesting. One of my favorite strategies of all time is the Guinness strategy, about good things come to those who wait, because it takes the most annoying thing about a pint of Guinness is obviously how long it takes to pour, but then they totally transform that into an amazing aspect about anticipation, which I sort of felt was like a really nice sort of spin on that. So
that leads me into a bit of because we like to do, for our listeners, we like to kind of help activate these things, right? So everyone has theories, but like as strategists, and even as Raka as an artist, right, we have ways that we can help other people activate these things. So we're talking there about reframing a problem, right? So the lift scenario that we've all been taught is like, there's a broken lift, or there's a lift that takes really long time to get to the 60th floor. So how do you reframe that problem to make it a positive experience, not a negative? You put a TV in it, you put a mirror so you can look at yourself. With Guinness, they've obviously reframed our mind to think that we're waiting for the perfect pint because we have to wait that long. Like what could you say to the listeners in now, like as a quick hack, or a few hacks to activating luck in their own little worlds or their own agencies? Like, just summarize it.
Well, one of the things I like to do is have a look at what jokes are told about. You're right, we do jump into we all think, let's find the positive thing to say about this brand, but sometimes I like to go into the most nasty parts of like Twitter or Reddit, or I'll put in the brand name and find out, I'll Google cartoons, because for a joke to work, if people are saying mean things about a brand and telling jokes about it, then that's often quite revealing, because that tells you what people really think when you're not in the room. That's what it's kind of interesting about, and it tells you that like we worked in a hostel world, kind of a youth hostel brand, and all the jokes about hostels are all about people getting killed or doing horrendous things. And then we leaned into it, like we had fun with it, and sort of, because you might as well acknowledge it, that if that's what people are saying about you when you're not in the room, let's like have some fun about that kind of stuff and turn those expectations on its head rather than pretend it doesn't exist. So I would say looking at jokes. And then there's a lovely, kind of interesting, again, Raka, in the world of music, there's a lovely quote from Quincy Jones that I think is one of the best things ever, which is about luck. And he says, let the Lord, well, he obviously recently passed away, but he used to say, let the Lord walk through the room. And he had that written on his studio wall apartment, let the Lord walk through the room. And what he meant was, do all the hard work, do all the planning. Obviously, you need talented people. But then you got to let, like he used to say, like, I want to have 20% of my time just ring fenced for cool stuff that's not on my playlist to happen. I'm going to look who's walking down the corridor and just get them in and do a bit of jamming. We're going to put a different song on that we weren't planning. We're not going to rehearse it. We're just going to see what happens. So it was all about sort of do the hard work, but then deliberately create that serendipity. And I think business could really, really learn from that, because sometimes we will like create, really elaborate strategic plans, and we'll have everything like put into boxes. But maybe on the day, like if you're making a film, something happens on the day that's brilliant, and it wasn't the thing that you've told your bosses you're going to create, but let's capture it anyway. And that might be much better, a spontaneous thing that's just happened. And sometimes we try and lock the other room, like we've got all the doors because we've told our boss, no, we're going to film it this way, and we're going to, we get worried about lucky things happening. But he sort of said, no, let the Lord walk through the room, let spontaneous things happen. And I feel like that's a cool way to create stuff.
I think
Yeah.
that happens a lot in movies, isn't it? Like the greatest directors let the actors ad lib.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Rakim, you had something to say there.
I was gonna say, yeah, you got to leave a little room for the magic to have a seat at the table too, like the space, like the willingness and the desire to embrace that. And a lot of times, what happens is whether it's from ego or maybe a sense that their job is supposed to have all the answers. Some people feel like they shouldn't allow something spontaneous to happen. Some people it's a control thing, but I think that as an artist and as somebody that's sat in many strategic meetings and creative meetings, when everyone comes to the table with a set plan and then something unique happens, you can see everyone's face light up. And everyone that's not ego driven or completely ego driven is going to embrace that, and all of a sudden you can see it's like a bunch of kids in the candy store. The ideas start flowing at a different pace and rhythm, and some really beautiful things happen. So I think that's an incredible quote from Quincy, rest in peace. And
Rest in peace.
yeah, for sure. And that's absolutely true on the creative side, and when you're dealing with strategy, creative strategy, to leave that space when dealing with that really allows for magic to happen.
Raka, did you have that when you were working with the people?
Absolutely. I looked for it. Like I was happy to have it. Like I would go into at a certain point I just started going in there with kind of outlines. Like this is kind of like structurally what I'm trying to do, but let's see what happens. And I would sit down with the producer, or sit down with Evidence or Babu, my crewmates, and we would just allow things to happen. We would flow, and sometimes you would go in there with a verse already written or something, and by the end of it, you just say, "Oh, let me just put this aside. Like I caught a new vibe, I caught a new rhythm, a new energy. Let's go with that." And you would kind of start from scratch. And a lot of times it would just be, if you went in there and just said, "Let me just go lay down what I came in here to do," and then leave, you would have never been able to take it to that next level and really experience and embrace that magic. So absolutely, it happens all the time, and I've seen it happen.
That happened on like one of the biggest tracks, right? Like on Worst Comes to Worst, wasn't that something you were trying
Sure.
to produce, and then he did.
And that was interesting because we flew to New York to record with The Alchemist, who is like the person who named Dilated Peoples. He's now one of the biggest producers in the world, but when we met him, he was Evidence's best friend, like just from high school. So he, at the time, he had moved to New York and was really producing, a lot of people out there. We went to go stay at a spot out there to work, and we were looking for a new track to work on. So we ordered food and sat up there and listened to beats for maybe 3 or 4 hours, and there were a lot of cool things that now are platinum records for other people that we listened to, but we weren't finding the thing that really spoke to all three of us at the same time. And at the end, we pretty much wrapped it up like, let's just pick it back up tomorrow. And he goes, there's one more I want to play, and he put it on, and it was like, that's the one. That was it. We were backpacks on our shoulder, jackets in hand. We were out the door, and he's like, just one more. Let's just play one more.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And some kind of way, we were trying to figure out, most rap music, probably 99% of it, time-wise is 4/4 on the one. It's a certain beat that everyone is on. And that one was just a totally different thing. Instead of how it would normally be, it was like a 6-bar verse with a 1-bar chorus. And we're like, never mind us never doing a song like this. We've never even heard a song like this. So how do we approach it? And just from talking and going back and forth, the Mobb Deep sample came in, the worst come to worst, my peoples come first. And all these things just started coming together. And even when we recorded it, we were like, okay, that's cool. That's interesting. And then DJ Premier was in the studio next door, and he was listening to what we were doing, and the beat nuts were down the hall at D&D Studios. Like, people started coming in, and by the time we mixed it and had it done, we were actually threatened, like, if you don't release this as a single, you're gonna have problems in New York. Like, you're not, you guys got to do this. You're gonna have problems with us because we love this record. Premier ended up mixing it. It turned into a whole thing on itself, but it all happened very organically, and we had no idea
It's
what was gonna
amazing.
happen, and it just flowed. So
I can't believe, because like that's literally one of the most defining hip hop tracks of that time. Like it's impossible, and the beat, and like it's just so unique, it's crazy. And it happened again with the Strike of Luck, and There is an echo. Is it US?
I think no, it's you this time. I'm
Is
sure.
it?
Yeah.
Let me sort that.
You talk. See? So anyway,
Right, let me try again.
yeah, now you're good.
Good.
Let's move a bit into you then, Andy. Like, I always kind of like to dig into my guests a little bit. I want to know a little bit, like when you've been on every podcast and every interview, and then I want to ask questions that no one's asked. So, like, if you did sing in the shower, what's your shower anthem? What's your shower anthem? What do you belt out? It must be.
Oh my God! Nobody wants to hear me singing in the shower. I can tell you that. I do like singing.
I can tell. I can see the charisma's there. Come on, you must have one.
I'm gonna. Do you know what? I'm gonna say. This is not really true, but I'm gonna say "Yesterday" by the Beatles.
Wow.
Because I discovered a little while ago a brilliant story that it was. This was serendipity that Paul McCartney dreamt the song, and woke up in the morning with this tune going through his head, this amazing tune, and then he needed to find some lyrics, and the only thing he could see, because they were on tour, was scrambled eggs, and for 6 months he sang scrambled eggs. Oh my baby, how I love your legs. But not as much as scrambled eggs. See, told you didn't want to hear me. And
no, it's great. I can imagine.
Thank you. For 6 months, this song was called Scrambled Eggs, until John Lennon says, if you don't stop playing that fucking Scrambled Eggs song, this tour is over. And what I like is that story where it's kind of, that to me is a thing we can do. That's a tip. If you're stuck, if you've got writer's block or you don't know what you're doing, just look around your room and think, what can I write about? And in his case, it was scrambled. Sometimes that just gets you going and thinking of, creativity. You can start off with something a bit crap and turn it into something absolutely amazing. So that's an answer.
And then let me ask another one, Martin, before you go. Hold it. So another thing I asked last, like, don't give me no resume or CV response here, but what does Andy do on a weekend? He doesn't like travel. He don't like music. He don't like food. What does Andy do in a weekend?
Well, the absolute truth is I've written another book but it's a totally
yes.
It's a novel. It's a crime novel.
Amazing.
But what is funny now is that my phone is full of horrendous search history. It's all like full of how to dispose of a body.
You're being targeted with
someone. Yeah, if anything happens to my wife,
we know.
This is my alibi now. I'm telling you all here is my alibi, because if I'm scared the cops are going to break the door down anyway. Why are you searching for burning people, strangling people, and all the rest of it? So, but I mean, the serious thing is I like doing.
Go on.
I like doing new stuff. I do.
Yeah. What? Going lastly on that, you say new stuff. Like, what's the most? Because I'm a bit like you. I've only just met you, but I like to like try new stuff.
You mean into killing wives, Wes?
No, kill me. Like, she's in there. She would definitely kill me. And you all know her apart from Andy. But no, like, I'm just saying, like, I'm like Martin calls me like I'm like a packaging whore or a marketing whore. Like, I like to latch on to like the newest thing, and I like to try it. But like, what's the like the kind of latest thing you tried, or the new what I'm trying to say is, what's the newest thing you've been like attached to? Because I think that's what I'm like a lot.
Well, so nothing to do with me. I saw a brand in the States. I couldn't manage to get some, but maybe Raka can explain this. It had the best name. I'm going to see if I can say this right. It was called Nutter Butter.
Nutter butter. Yeah. Okay. I'll let Raka explain this. This is deep.
What is Nutter butter? That's like what?
It sounds amazing.
Sweet peanut butter.
Yeah. But like, is it not a play off like a sexual innuendo that? Like,
oh really?
It is now.
No, that Raka knows what I'm talking about as well.
No, that's another thing I'm going to be googling. That's another thing in my search history now, isn't it?
I think you need to just burn that laptop, Andy. Just take it
Yeah,
safe.
I'm getting rid of it.
That's great.
So lastly, like Ash is not here, so I'm going to put this on Raka. Raka hates this question. But like, if you could ask us a question, what would you ask us?
That's Raka.
Is that for me?
No, that's for Andy. Like Andy, normally it's Ash. Normally it's Ash who hates this question. So he's standing Ash.
What's the strangest
I love this
guest you've had on here?
Oh.
I don't think we've had a strange one. I was telling Raka about this before we were waiting for you to come on. Like, you know, when you just hit the road like running with someone, and so I hit up Vic Lee on LinkedIn, as you do. I'm sure Martin went the same route with you. And I was like, do you want to come on this podcast? You know, we do this live. And he instantly gave me shit back, like instantly. And I was like, hold on. So I went back, right? And then before you know it, we're having banter over LinkedIn. And then he agrees, obviously, to come on. And he came in, he was in the green room, and he got on quite early. And we were literally having banter from the split second he walked into this room, right? And he'd never met anyone. Obviously, he'd met me over chat, but he'd never. And he just walked in. I don't know if you know, we're talking about Vic Lee, he's the illustrator, but he literally gave us shit from get-go. And I thought, this is amazing, like perfect. You know what I mean? Like as a water cooler, as you rightly said, you can put people around it and you inspire each other like innocently. It just happens. And then I met him in real life, and he did the same thing to me, like, literally the same shit to me. And I was like, I love this dude. Like, I literally love him. I don't know about weird. I don't have any weird ones. I think Rory had like 15 vapes around his neck on lanyards. That was genius.
Amazing, yeah.
And he went through them all like the Pied Piper, like this, like just
I love the man, but you cannot keep him on topic. Like, he has so many stories to share. He just goes like, we had an agenda. He said, "Fuck it, I come here. I'll talk about religion. I talk about men leggings. I will talk about EV cars." It was like absolutely insane. But like, it's just Rory is Rory, right? So every time he speaks, there is always something. Andy, before we let you go, there is a question that was in my head at the beginning, and then the conversation naturally flow out of it. And someone just texted here as well. So how do you influence the space and the time to play for magic in today's schedule crunches and tightened budget? We have invoices, we have deadlines, shit happens, someone left, someone comes, we have crap days. How do you protect that space, to generate that serendipity? How do you guys do it at Lucky Generals?
Great question.
Yeah, we just, I guess, encourage people to, we don't do it necessarily formally, but we, like some companies say, everybody, like 3M and Google, I think both say Fridays are for personal pet projects and not for commercial sort of. We do a little bit more informally, but we really encourage people to do, just to take time to do cool, interesting things that are not like specific client briefs, because we just know that on so many occasions has come to help us, and it helps clients as well, because like I say, this idea that it's hard work and there's no such thing as luck, and the harder you work, the luckier you get, and all the rest of it just doesn't help, because as we all know, if you just stare at a laptop all day hoping that the hard work is going to, that's not how creativity happens. Do the hard work and then ring fence some other time. So that's why I love that Quincy Jones quote so much, is like, find a moment to let the Lord walk through the room. And we tell all our people that you're never going to get told going out for a walk or go in an art gallery or, as long as you come up with goods, we don't care like how many hours you spent sitting in a chair in front of a laptop doing it. It's about the output, and a lot of the time the output comes from doing cool, interesting other stuff.
To close that off,
you set it from the top, I think is what we do.
So to close that off, Mark in the chat is like, can you put luck as a line item on an invoice? Like,
we're genius. I feel like, I'm going to come straight off this call and have a word with our finance director.
Amazing.
Onboarding, audit, luck, brand strategy, campaign activation.
Yeah. Do you know what? It'd be more honest, wouldn't it? I mean, because we airbrush it out of the process, but that's probably quite an honest invoice would include 20% luck on there.
Thanks, Mark. And Andy, one more, like going back into you. Who influenced you the most in your career at the beginning, especially?
Well, probably literally it was, I had a very lucky beginning. So I did law at university.
Did you?
And so, really weird. And I sort of knew quite quickly I wasn't, and I did enjoy it. I really liked it. I had this amazing law lecturer who was very good and funny and just really creative and interesting. And I sort of told him, like, I don't think I'm going to do law. I'm not going to practice. I'll finish my degree and then have you got any other ideas? And he said, why don't you try advertising? Anyway, he suggested me in that direction because he said it sounds like you like putting a case together, but you want to do it in a more creative way, less corporate. Then that is sort of what law does and advertising does. You're trying to put someone else's best case forward. But anyway, the really weird thing about him is he then became he gave up the law as well quite soon after. And he's a guy
because of you, probably, because of that specific student.
I think so. He's a guy called Alexander McCall Smith, who's like one of the top, I don't know exact number, almost like 100 million books. He's considerably more successful than I am. So I think he just sort of thought, fuck that, I'm going to do that as well. And he just gave up and then wrote all these amazing books. And so I think I've played my part in his success, but he certainly.
Oh my God, I love it.
So lastly, before we let you go, we obviously didn't have enough time to tell you this because you came in to the listeners, viewers. You were literally in like 30 seconds, 3 minutes over, but we were flapping around. So we normally ask you to like promote something. So you've mentioned a book, which is great. So tell not only about your existing book, but about your new book. Has it got a release date? Something.
Well, if you're interested in murder stories as well,
we'll all have a search history like you. It's built.
Yeah, exactly. The book is called The Trail of Blood, and it's out already. And you're going to have to look for it under. I've got a sort of pen name for that, which is AK Nairn. Not being pretentious, but because I got told it would confuse everyone. Because my Go Luck Yourself is under Andy Nairn, which is my actual name. And it's going to be totally confused if you then start doing murder stories under that name. Some poor brand strategist is going to think, well, this is going to help me, and then be disgusted at some sort of murderous book. So thank you. The Trail of Blood, a gripping historical murder mystery by A.K. Nairn. That's it.
Brilliant. Amazing.
Brilliant.
All right.
Check that out.
I hope you've enjoyed yourself. Like it's
I have. Thank you so much. I'm sorry again for being so late and ridiculously.
Don't worry about it, man. Honestly, like if we could record the bloopers at the start, I think we'd have but we've not figured out how to do it yet. Honestly, like that flapping around and that last 15 minutes before we go is normally chaos. So anyway, anything else? Anything else from you, Andy, before we go?
No, I've loved it. Thank you so much. Been fun, everyone, and hope everyone has lovely weekends and holidays.
Yeah, amazing. Make sure you connect with Andy. He's obviously quite active on LinkedIn. Follow him around, stalk him, don't murder him. That's probably
not yet. Let him do another couple of books. Let him do another couple of books.
Yeah.
Make sure you also subscribe and follow us.
Yay!
All right.
Make sure you check our channel as well on YouTube. And see you. Thank you, guys.
Bye, mate.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Cheers.